Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz & Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz & Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Crystal Jensen. She is the CEO and founder of Mindful Expressions Incorporated, based in Kelowna, BC. How are you doing this morning, Crystal?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How's your morning going so far?
The morning has been bright and beautiful, and I'm really excited for this interview and podcast with you, so thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be part of the Empowerography community and agreeing to be part of the podcast and share a bit about your story and your journey here. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned, you are the CEO and founder of Mindful Expressions Incorporated, the Mindful Educator Association, and host of the International Mindful Play Summit. Can you tell us how your company is structured?
Absolutely. So I operate under Mindful Expressions Incorporated, and that, I would say, host business has been just so inspiring for me to really put my energy and my love and my passions into. And from the birth of Mindful Expressions, and we'll kind of get into a little bit about that, I decided to create the Mindful Educator Association, and that's just in its infant stages, where I believe that, educators, quality education, and being able to eventually have this association hosting more quality educators coming in to inspire, in the field for early learning. And then the host, for me being the host of the International Mindful Play Summit, that's something that I just put on here in the fall of September of 2020. And that was super inspiring to do a collaboration of 24 speakers, international speakers coming in to talk about the importance of mindful early learning and play-based learning. So Mindful Expressions is really just a business that I kind of evolved over the last few years, and really got clear on the direction of what I wanted to bring to the world, and really create that foundation for future early learning. Amazing.
That's a lot. You got a lot going on. You're a busy lady.
Right?
What inspired you to create Mindful Expressions?
Yeah, so what Mindful Expressions is currently right now, I operate an early learning center. So it's a program that supports children from ages 30 months to 5 years of age. And so I ran a daycare. It was called Expressions Daycare, and this has been about 6 years now. And I was recognizing as I was doing the yoga with the children, we had a soccer program that we were offering for the children, and I really wanted to bring in more of an enriched environment. And there's actually a backstory. I'll give, a bit of it regarding my development. And I was completely burnt out. I was running Expressions Daycare for 10 hours a day. By myself. I was licensed for 8 children in this center, and I would finish my day completely burnt to the crisp. And as educators, as parents, we understand that, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're sputtering over sometimes, or we're triggering. So I would come home after taking care of everybody else's children for 10 hours, and I have my own children, and I just wasn't a happy mommy. So, over the time of this, daycare, I was able to raise my own children in the setting. It was, it's in the basement of my house. And I just thought, I need to make some changes, but I don't want to leave the field. And it was actually, I ended up getting quite sick within this burnout stage. And I recognized that what was supporting me in my own teaching, in my own learning, was bringing in mindful practices into my day. And it hit me. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I can regulate while I educate, and that's kind of like my little tagline, to support these children, to support myself, if it's just starfishing on the ground in the middle of the day and having the children kind of come around me and bounce pom-poms or stones or sticks or whatever on me, I was taking that moment to recharge. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is it. So I actually shifted my sole proprietor, which was Expressions Daycare, and I incorporated and rebranded, and Mindful Expressions was born. And the philosophy behind it is all about bringing in the mindful early learning. So we teach breath work, self-regulation, self-love activation. We do a lot of mirror work, superpower poses, and bring the children back to connecting with themselves through this mind-body connection. And while I'm teaching it, like I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it, because it's like, it is like my why. And while I'm teaching this to the children, and, you know, I've had a couple staff with me, and we're looking in the mirrors and we're doing our I am statements and we're doing our forgiveness and we're talking about our gratitudes. I look over and my support staff has tears coming down her face. Wow. Because as we are educating these children, we are also healing some of our old belief systems and, you know, some of our, maybe our limiting thoughts or whatever, as we're standing in that mirror. And there's these beautiful stories that come up each day as we're teaching. And I've recognized that Mindful Expressions is not just the center in my house, right? It's not just, you know, teaching children from ages, you know, whatever, 30 months up to 5 years, that we can also inspire these educators to move through the program, to move through connecting with themselves and, you know, be that better version of themselves.
Start the healing for themselves as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you come up with the name for the business?
So it kind of evolved from Expressions Daycare, which was like, you know, the freedom of expressions for young children, and then bringing in the mindful piece, right? Mindful expressions. Yeah. But it's all based around having that at the baseline, freedom to express. So if you're having a bad day, express that. If you're angry, let's talk about that. Maybe we want to do some rage, you know, roaring out like lions, and really allowing the children to feel those emotions. You know, I go back to, you know, when our generation of upbringing, and it was like, hey, you want to cry? That's fine. Go to your room, shut the door. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You want to do that? That's fine. But go, and I just remember, keep it to yourself kind of thing. Yeah. I just remember as a child that, you know, I was like, I was okay to cry, but it was just like kicking my feet on the wall. And after a while, you're like, why am I crying? Like, I've totally forgotten what I was feeling. I just let it all out. So that's the stem of the name of the business. And it's just beautiful how it's evolving into something that's not just, you know, a little project in my basement, so to speak. How do the kids react to the exercises and whatnot? Do they love them? Are they reluctant at times? They absolutely love them, and it's really it's almost like when you set the intention to create this environment, you're also attracting those like-minded parents. You're attracting those parents that are like, hey, you know what, this is working for me and I want more of this for my children. Right. And what I've noticed is the behaviors are reducing. So certain things that might have been happening are now not happening. And I reference my own daughter. She's 3. I have 3 children, ages 3, 6, and 10. So I reference my youngest, where she is very vivacious. And I've been working with her on a lot of these techniques and strategies, and the way I would say it's more of a lifestyle. And as she moves through her day, she goes to another program, but comes home and I can see she's just trying to hold it all together. When she comes home, it's like, bleh, she just falls apart, and it's safe for her to do that. But I recognize her doing some of her breathing. So I can see when she's had a long day or something is triggering her, and I can just see her take that big breath. And as a mom, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, you know, I see it, you know, but she's recognizing it's working and she's able to readjust. And the biggest thing is that, you know, that regulation piece, right? Acknowledging what's happening. And the children in the center, they crave it. And I hear some stories from the parents, you know, maybe a little boy was playing with blocks, and, you know, before he would just like chuck the blocks and be like, I can't do it. And so we do some empowerment statements like, I am strong, I am brave, I can do anything. And, you know, to hear that the play shifts to, okay, I can try, I can do anything. And, you know, it takes repetition and persistence, but that's my whole aspiration with this program, is to allow these children to connect with themselves, to create that foundation, to learn how to breathe, to talk about their feelings. If you want to cry, if you want to rage, like, go at it. Right.
Yeah.
And in a safe
Let it all
place.
out.
Yeah. Let it all out, because we want to feel it. We want to see it. We want to, you know, acknowledge it. And then we want to release it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we talk about like trapped emotions and like putting those emotions, stuffing them down for how many years. For myself, it starts to show up in physical form, where in my body, it's like, I'm just still releasing and healing as I'm teaching these children. And it's super beautiful to see how they're also reacting. And they're also my biggest teachers. Right? When a child comes in and they're bringing their teachings from their home, or, you know, storytelling and stuff like that, it's super inspiring to have like a deeper, it's not just like we're here to be, you know, babysitters or educators, you know, because in this field, everyone's like, oh, you know, you're babysitters, and we're not. There's such underlining, I would say, like a nourishment, like just a deeper connection that you can have. But it starts, Brad, with like forming that deeper connection with yourself first. I think that's the biggest message.
Yeah, that's the key. Everything starts, the whole foundation is within self. That's where everything starts from, and then it just kind of emanates out from that.
Absolutely.
So what is your role within the company?
Yeah, so as being CEO and founder, of course, I get to be the leader of the pack, so to speak. And but I love to inspire, and I love to work with my team. So I do have a team of people. I have, you know, an EC that comes in and does some support. I also have my EA that supports me as well. And, but right now, because the business is shape shifting in so many ways, I am able to step into that CEO role and have these beautiful conversations. And right now, you know, so I am an early childhood educator. I've been in the field since 2003. So, you know, we're looking at about 17 years. Yeah. And, so I am on the floor and working with the children, and I'm working to expand this practice and to bring it out into the community, which we'll get into a little bit later in our conversation.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
What is the most exciting or inspiring part of your business?
I would say for me is just getting out of my own way and showing up, because the world needs this. Educators needs this, you know, the message. Children need this message and this practice. So I feel that it is my why. Like, I finally figured out what my purpose is on this planet. And when you figure that out and you have that dream and you have that desire and you have that drive, it's really cool to show up every day. It is. Right? I'm not just dragging my feet through the door like, teacher Crystal's here. Yeah. I love to play with puppets. I love to play with the children. So we teach mindfulness through puppetry. So we've got this, you know, this one guy that teaches breath work, and Super Dave teaches our empowerment pose. And like, so certain things that come out where I just love to play. And when you have a big burning goal or desire, and you can see that end result because you can visioneer and you can see it in your mind's eye and you've got those goals, it's pretty awesome to, you know, wake up in the morning and put your feet on the floor and celebrate that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you and I talked about this previously on a phone call or a Zoom meeting about finding your purpose, and just how incredible that feels to know that you have found your purpose or your mission in life, and to be able to do that for a living, to do that as your job, get up and go every day and do what you love to do, is just, there's no feeling in the world like it.
Absolutely.
Now, I read that you came from a corporate background and were in the corporate world for quite a few years. What was it that inspired the want to become an entrepreneur and start your own company?
For sure. So I've always loved children. You know, I was 19 and coming out of high school. It's like, well, what do you want to do? It's like, well, I used to teach piano. I had my Royal Conservatory of Music, whatever. And it's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'll go take my ECE. So while I was taking my ECE, I started working for a major telecommunications company because that was paying the bills and so forth. And as I was working on my ECE and always had my license to practice and always worked part-time with the children, and I had my musical background, I had this goal ever since I was little. I don't remember when it came through, but that I wanted to build a musical based preschool. And I saw like organs and like big things, like just had this dream. Now you come out of school, it's like, I got to pay the bills. I'm working for this, telecommunications company. And all of a sudden it was like, that kind of took my role in development on my professional side, where I always kept my license to practice up. I was always dabbling or working part-time or subbing in centers, but I started as like an inside sales rep, doing those call outs, making sales. So over the years, 12 years, actually, I was blessed to go through my development through this company, through this telecommunications company, and learn about leadership and development, learn about like train the trainer, how to speak in front of people. Looking back, we'll talk about what happened in the transition, but I learned all of my professional, not my personal development, but my professional development through this company. So I also gave my heart and soul to this company, and I would lose sleep, running a sales team and, taking on executive roles. And, it was great. It was corporate. You had your benefits, right? But you're also kind of stuck to this corporate ball and chain because you got your pension, all these things. But this desire to build this musical preschool in my mind was always there.
Right.
And what was, I had my oldest, she's now 10. And then I was pregnant with my middle son. He's now 6.
Okay.
And during this time, this company had gone through a massive reorg. And I was literally pregnant and I got the phone call. I was off on early disability because I had a 9-pound, 15-ounce baby turkey inside of me. And I was supposed to deliver that week. Like it was my due date. And I got the call and they're just like, hey, Crystal, we've really appreciated you within a phone call. Like, I feel like this is like somebody breaking up with me over text, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And they basically said, we appreciate you. You've done amazing things, but your position's no longer. And I was like, okay, whoa. Like,
is this a joke?
I was like, I'm on medical disability here. I'm ready to deliver. I have a high risk pregnancy. Like, what's going on? And I remember standing in my bedroom. I come out of the room and my hubby looks at me and he's like, it looks like somebody passed away. Like who passed away? And I was like, well, I just gave my heart and soul to this company for 12 years. And now, they're doing a reorg in my position. And, I have so much respect for this company. I'll leave the name out, but they made sure like I had, my benefits. They kept me on for maternity leave for the year. Like, I think they realized like, hey, we can't be doing what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So they really took care of me. But what it did is it gave me that year off on maternity leave to build my business. And I thought, you know what? Isn't that strange? Or isn't it just how it all goes when all of a sudden you've got this desire and you've got this goal and you've got this plan. And even though you're resisting it because it's this corporate gig and, it was almost like gifted to me. Like,
yes,
now your position is removed. What are you going to do? So we renovated the basement of our house. We put in, a door through a window and went through the whole process of licensing it and clearing out the backyard and creating a beautiful space back there. And I wouldn't have made that step into that entrepreneurial space unless it was, I would say, gifted to me the way it was. Yeah,
that's it. I mean, sometimes what seems like at the time the worst possible thing that could happen turns into the best possible thing. And I mean, you were obviously putting it out to the universe, and the universe said, okay, well, here you go, Crystal. This is what you asked for.
That vibrational match just sitting there waiting.
Isn't it awesome though when it does happen? I mean, like I said, at the time it probably felt, oh no, this has got to be a joke. But it was obviously the best possible thing that could have happened, right?
I agree. And at the time, it's like, oh, okay, is this happening for me or at me? What's going on? And, I now have a little bit more of understanding of that. But when you're in it and you're pregnant, super emotional.
Yeah,
for sure. What's going on? Yeah.
So was that transition from the comfort of the corporate gig? I mean, albeit it was forced, but was it an easier transition for you to entrepreneurship, or was it tough?
Yeah, I think, it was both. I feel that I was well taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
I received a severance package, and I received my top up and my benefits and so forth. I feel that I was robbed my maternity a little bit with my middle child, because it was like go time. Like I'm very type A. It's like back then my mindset wasn't like trust the process. It was like, okay, well, we need a bobcat. We need to build a fence. Like it was very like strategy based, where there I am with a newborn and he's in a stroller and we're ripping out cedars and getting rid of like junipers. And, so I feel that portion of it was a bit tough, because I would have loved to just be like breastfeeding my baby and just having a zen time through that. But instead there was a bit of, because I was making a decent wage, right? And then now it was like, I had to create that next level to ensure that I could continue on that path of growth financially.
Yeah.
So I would say that pressure wasn't really enjoyable.
I guess not. Now, you're also a success advisor working with Tara Piling and Bob Proctor within the Thinking into Results program. Can you tell us a bit about that and how much of a role that program has played in your life and career personally?
Absolutely. So one of my mentors, Tara Pilling, she is an incredible mindset consultant. So she's been dripping on me for many years, and I actually came into contact with her. I was buying some wooden toys off of her for my center, and it has completely shifted my mindset. So moving through the motions of understanding that, everything is energy, and what is happening around us is a direct reflection of what is happening inside of us, and allowing ourselves to really focus on our thoughts, getting back to that dream state, right? What do you really want? It's like, one day she said to me, like, Crystal, you know all this stuff, but you're not doing it. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like, I needed somebody that would hold me accountable. A lot of the times when I come into connection with people, they'll I wouldn't say shy away, but maybe so, where they're just like, hey, well, I don't want to say that, might hurt her feelings, whatever. Tara is just like firm but fair. And, her saying to me, like, Crystal, you know all this stuff, but you're not putting into practice. So I now have a daily routine. I'm studying the material. I have an accountability partner. I'm learning about persistence. I am just really stepping out of my own way and not really focusing and thinking about myself. Like I am in my personal development, and I know it starts and ends with me, but what I mean by thinking about myself is showing up on a live or doing a Zoom chat going like, okay, am I clear? Am I this or am I that? Like I just show up knowing that I'm clear. I'm showing up knowing that my message is being heard and being seen. And that's been a huge shift in my self-confidence, my self-worth. And then when we work on our self-confidence and we acknowledge our limiting beliefs and maybe the beliefs that are passed upon us from generation to generation, and moving through this material and having the daily practices and just being around high vibrational people has really shifted me to then stand in the mirror and do my self-confidence formula and talk about, and some of the stuff seems a little bit crazy because it's like, rampaging in front of the mirror before I jump on a call to raise my vibration, certain things where you can tell I'm not just, showing up being like, hey, Brad, right? Like I'm working on that.
Into it.
I'm into it. And so I say it's been a complete game changer for me, because we can do the personal development, but we need to actually be doing it, right? It's like that knowing, doing gap part of it.
Yeah.
So, now implementing that and that knowledge more into, the future of my business and being able to support educators and allowing them to shift their thoughts and what are their wants and their desires, and coming in as more of a coach for these mindful educators to say, listen, it starts and ends with you and what's happening around us, because also the children are going to show up and mirror some of these beliefs that are inside of us to trigger us to say, wait a second, right? Why is this showing up? Why am I agitated? And that's actually a very beautiful gift for us to take a step and say, wait a second, this is triggering me because this is actually a learning opportunity for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
so the mindset piece, when we talk about success, 95% of success is mindset, and only 5% of it is strategy.
Yeah, the mindset part though is the hardest part, to get into that mindset. I mean, I had a lot of trouble getting into the mindset myself, and getting over competition and getting the confidence in my abilities. And it's a very, very tough thing to do. But once you're able to do that, the shift and the change is just like day and night. It's phenomenal.
Absolutely. So yeah, that would kind of sum up that question. How much of a role has it played? It's everything.
Yeah.
And now that I've recognized the mindful early learning and the mindset piece of it, they mirror each other so beautifully, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can do the actions, but if we're not embodying those thoughts is where it all starts. Like for example, you got a circumstance, and after the circumstance happens, we can choose to think one way, or we have a choice to think another way. And that spiders out in the domino effect of either a negative result or a more result with ease, more of that responsive result versus reacting, right?
Very true. Very true. What is your 5-year plan for the business? Where do you want to see your business in 5 years?
Great question. So right now the program is operating out of my basement of my home. We've had this center down here for 6 years. Okay. And my goals is to bring this online, which I have been doing with the Mindful Place Summit, and slowly bringing, like I've got a Tame Your Trigger challenge that we just ran, and bringing awareness. We have a Facebook group that we created. It's called the Mindful Play. I say we, but it's myself and my team, but it's called the Mindful Play community. And that community was brought on to bring like-minded, parents, caregivers, educators together. I pop on and I do Circle Saturdays, which is fun. So I bring my puppets on and inspire. So bringing the program online. I'm also heading out into the community to do more center-to-center integration. So, for me, I'm licensed for 8 children. It's like a little tiny present box. I want to break down those walls and be able to bring this program out into the community even more. So there's a couple local centers here in Kelowna that have already showed interest for taking part in this
great. Awesome.
integration. Yeah, and being able to support the educators more. So group coachings, those type of things, where I'm finding I've been doing a lot of discovery calls, and these educators just feel alone. And there are some really great centers out there that invest in their personal and professional development of their employees. But that's my aspiration, is supporting those parents, supporting those caregivers and those educators to really truly form that deeper connection within themselves, so that then they can support the children around them. Right. And then I would say, for me, it's just I want to do more speaking gigs. So being on podcasts, and eventually when, this pandemic is done, being able to speak on stage and really support the message, because we're all in this together, and being able to lead and to inspire and to show up and just be there for support. That's my goals and aspirations for the next 5 years. My big C goal is to support and inspire over 1 million children, and that when Mindful Educators Association gets off the ground, to be able to support more programs with funding, and I see myself building, mindful schools all across the world. That's and you're just
that's amazing, Crystal.
Unveil the curtain. You're just
exactly.
This is where I want to bring it.
Well, you've already started the process, so that's the first and most important part, is taking that first step, and you're well into that. So I have no doubt that you will reach your big C goal for sure.
Thank you. And bringing that daily practices to reduce that burnout. I'm sure there's some listeners that are like, hey, definitely I feel the burnout, especially as we're homeschooling our children right now, or we're moving through this pandemic, where a lot of the things that we used to have been taken away from us, right? And I've spoken to some parents where they're like, I just don't have any space to myself. And I'm like, do you have a closet? Maybe creating a little calm closet for yourself, that if you just need to go in there and have a little mummy time out, or, it's okay to take that time for yourself, give them a little egg timer and just be like, hey, 5 minutes, no bugging mom until this,
Yes.
unless someone's bleeding or hurt, like,
Yeah,
please
I
give me
need this.
some
I need
space.
this time for sure.
Absolutely.
What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I would say my positive attitude. I've always been just this like bubbly person, and my ability to connect with people. So especially young people. So I'm very playful and well-rounded, and I absolutely love, I love learning, right?
Yeah.
So I have this mindset that, if we aren't learning and we're not growing, then we're just stagnant.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I've hovered and I've been stagnant before, and it's not fun.
No.
So being able to have that forward thinking. And I think the biggest thing is to be able to just play and like let go of those expectations of what we think it should be, and just be with yourself. If you don't have children and you want to go out and you want to play, go out and play, right? If you have children, play with them.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Absolutely. I think as we get older, we forget what it was like to be a kid, and the innocence and the simplicity of just being and playing and just enjoying that,
Absolutely.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
I would say back, kind of piggybacking off the last question, we're always learning, our experiences, and, if we have children, the children around us are our greatest teachers. Couple qualities like patience and mindset, right? I didn't have a lot of patience. It's like, how can I be working with children when I don't have patience, And that self-judgment and, the I can'ts, or judging myself for maybe some triggers that were surfacing in my own self. So by doing the mindset work, by practicing, I was able to, we talked a little bit about the circumstance. So I'll just give an example, right? Bringing it into more of that response. So if my children were sitting there watching TV and I'd ask them to turn off the TV and they didn't listen right away, I would just be like, oh, I'm not being heard. No one's listening to me.
Yeah.
Why aren't they listening to me? And that was my initial thought after that circumstance, right? So then, of course, I trigger and my emotions bubble up and my storytelling, like, oh, nobody cares about me. Nobody wants to listen to me. And then it goes into the reaction or the response, right? And the result, which is just like triggered mommy, not happy, whatever.
Yeah.
So then now we shift that and we go, okay, now I'm going to focus on my thoughts. So circumstance is the same, but I come up and I'm like, okay, the children, I asked them to turn off the TV and they're not listening. Maybe they didn't hear me. I should do more positive story in my head. Maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe I should get right in front of them and try again. So all of a sudden I've shifted my thoughts to, oh, maybe they just didn't hear me versus they're not listening, like they're choosing not to listen, right? Yeah. And then the response is more of I would say with ease, where all of a sudden now I stand in front of them, I maybe get down to their level, and I ask them some qualifying questions. Did you hear mommy ask you to turn off the TV? And right away they'd say, oh no, and they'd turn it off right away. So the response and the reaction, the result is completely different, but it's just the circumstance is always the same, but the response will reinforce the circumstance. And it just starts with our thoughts.
Very true. Very true. To date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
There's two of them for sure.
Okay.
I would say raising my 3 children and really learning to love myself.
Those are very important. Again, everything there, it's back to self again, right? Everything starts with self.
And I wouldn't have learned to love myself if it wasn't for my oldest showing me that she didn't love herself. And that's going a bit deep, but the message there is they are a direct mirror reflection of us. And I wouldn't have started doing the work, doing the hard work 3-4 years ago if she wasn't showing up, showing me how she saw herself. And I started to work on my love language, learning to love myself, my positive body affirmations with her in the mirror. And it was a very emotional time. And she just this last year has had some major breakthroughs and said to me, Mommy, why are you, because tears were kind of coming down my face, right?
Mm-hmm.
She said, Mommy, why are you crying? And I said, I'm very proud of you. And if there's one thing that, you could learn from Mommy is to always love and respect yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that moment where I thought, okay, I could see how I parented, like who I was as a person when I was parenting her, who I was as a person when I was parenting my middle child, who I was as a person when I was parenting my youngest. And you could just see based on their development. There's no judgment other than awareness that, wow, this is pretty cool. You know, and as I move through understanding the next layer of my own onion, right? So that's the layers. It's showing up in my children.
It's so often adults seem to, and I don't mean this literally, but cast aside children in the way that, they don't understand or they don't get it. They're too young to understand. We don't give them enough credit. Because they are incredibly intuitive and incredibly smart, a lot smarter and more intuitive than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was a turning point in your life and how did it affect you?
Turning point in my life was the moment I decided to invest in myself. Just most recently, doing more, personal development. I recognized within my thoughts the fear I was holding. So, my physical body wasn't in alignment with like my emotional or my spiritual self. It just was a little out of whack. So I really got clear on what I wanted. I actually lost 47 pounds of fear. I say it's fear, right? Because as you become aligned with your thoughts and everything else, and you become that vibrational match, I was able to recognize what I was holding on to was a lot of fear. My body was like, you know what, I'm just going to protect you from that fear. So it was doing me a favor and just shifting my mindset around, I can't have that versus like, I'm choosing this path over here. And there's no punishment where I felt like I was like punishing myself for things over the years. So my relationships are now better. My financial situation is better. And it really just started with me deciding to invest in myself.
Awesome. Again, this theme of going back to self keeps popping up, and it's so true. I mean, it all starts there.
Absolutely.
What would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
You're going to see a common theme again, right? Like, Crystal's all about this mindset stuff. But, the best advice I've ever received is that I have control of my own thoughts. Like, to think, oh my gosh, I can control what I'm thinking, and it starts and ends with us, which, we've been talking about, but to understand that, our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what you're impressing upon it or what's real, right? So if I continuously stand in the mirror and I'm doing my self-confidence formula and I'm telling myself stuff and in the back of my mind, like, you're crazy. There's certain things, all these like things coming up and, you're hearing yourself. But if you continuously work on yourself and you continuously focus on your thoughts and really start thinking about the positive things, right? Start thinking about the good things you want or the dreams, because our brain is like a muscle. And the moment that we start to think those positive thoughts, more positive thoughts will come and more positive things will attract. It's like the moment we start focusing on those negative things, well, oh my gosh, it's like one thing after another. And how do you stop that cycle, right?
Yes,
but the
absolutely.
moment we can get quiet and just be quiet, sit in stillness and focus in on our thoughts and start to recognize or brain dump out all the negative ones, but then flipping that script and allowing ourselves to focus on the positive ones.
Right.
That's where the magic starts to grow. And when we can teach our children that, and when we can celebrate gratitude and raise our vibration and be in that higher frequency, we start to attract those things into our life. So that's absolutely the best advice, is that you have control over your own thoughts. You can choose to think on the positive and celebrate those positive things, or you can choose to pick those other things up, which it's not fun.
No, not at all. Not at all. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
Success for me, I would say it would show up in results, right? If you're happy, if you're balanced, if you've got that positive mindset, if things are showing up in your world that are just like, oh my goodness, things are positive, like, and when we look at that for success, the proof is in the pudding with the results, right? If chaos and clutter and things are happening all around us, well, that's a direct reflection of what's happening inside of us. If we're seeing, the balance, the happiness, the great relationships, positive things going on around us, that really shows up what's happening inside of us again. So that's how I would define success.
Okay. To what extent do you think that we shape our own destiny, and how much is up to fate, do you think?
Well, I feel that we can 100% shape our own destiny. We can sit there and it starts with a choice. Like, what do we truly want for ourselves? And, I look at my old self, right? And I always thought things were happening to me, not for me, and it's just like I was in a bit of a victim mindset. And by shaping our thoughts, by getting clear on what our desires are, by getting clear on what we really want. Like when you're a child, it's like you daydream, you stare out into the stars, or then you go to school and the teacher's like, hey, stop daydreaming, focus in on me here. And you're like, well, wait a second. So we're shut down that creative self, that dreaming state, that vision that we have at such a young age. And as we grow older, it's like, well, when was the last time I just sat down and thought about what I really wanted? Right. And so I really, truly feel that we do shape our own destiny, and we can be whatever we want to be. We can create whatever we want to be. It just comes back to a choice, and it comes back to spending time within our thoughts, getting quiet, and knowing that we're all here for a greater purpose.
That's right.
We're here for that greater purpose. And if you're lost and you're just in autopilot, I mean, that's okay, but bring awareness to that and recognize that, to say, is this everything for me here? And just know that there is that greater purpose. So absolutely, I believe that we definitely shape our own destiny, and things will show up as lessons. They'll show up as mountains and hurdles and big giant mud puddles. But if we can see the lesson or the silver lining throughout all of that, that's where the beauty comes in.
Yeah, definitely. If 3 wishes were granted to you, what would you wish for?
Okay, so this one's kind of funny for me. So, of course, universal love, right? That's one of them, and that no child would go without, no lack of anything, food, water, education, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then I got a funny personal one. I would say no body hair from the neck down.
Wow, that is something I didn't expect.
Right? I was like, okay, let's go like inspiring, and then like I gotta have a personal want in there. Like if I was to have those 3 wishes, sign me up.
That's pretty classic. All right, well, that's one for the books for sure. Awesome, Crystal. Awesome. Wow. Well, you made me laugh, to say the least.
Right?
That's a good one. What would you say is your personal motto?
I would say done is better than perfect. So all my life, I was, more of a perfectionist, or I'm going to say this because that'll make that person feel that way. Or, you know what? I like pizza because you like pizza. And I was always like a people pleaser. Yeah. And by stepping out of like, okay, I'm a fear of being seen, or, hey, what if I make a mistake? And just having the mantra and motto of like, done is better than perfect. I'm showing up, I'm being seen, cracking jokes, because that's just who I am. But just done is better than perfect. If there's spelling mistakes, or, I talk about no body hair from the neck down, it's like, well, you know what? It made you laugh. And It's actually a true piece of me where I'm just like, I don't like that. But knowing that I'm showing up, and that I'm showing up authentically, and I'm not scripted, I'm just being that person that I am, that more people connect with me versus me just hiding and worried about how I'm speaking or how I'm showing up, or, what if my hair's not done out, certain things where it's just like, no, you know what? Done's better than perfect. Here I am in my natural form.
In my done state.
Right?
Yep.
Totally.
Absolutely. What gives you the motivation to keep going?
I would say accountability partners for sure. Waking up every day knowing it's going to be a great day. So a lot of that mindset piece, gratitude, living in that state of gratitude where a lot of people, like even before I started, the knowing, doing gap of like, oh, I know this stuff, but I'm not doing it. I always thought, yeah, write down your gratitudes. Everyone's saying that, but it becomes a way of being, and it becomes a part of your day where it's like, when you wake up and you're doing certain things to raise your vibration, it starts to feel good. And when you don't do the things that make you feel good, you kind of step out of that vibration and go like, I want to get back into doing that, right? So, that persistence piece of it, and really knowing and having that motivation, like, I know what I want. I know where I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to get there. That's not that's, forget about the how, but seeing that end vision and having that goal with my wants really has me motivated to get up every day. And the days that I miss my meditation or my morning practice or my gratitude sharing and stuff like that, I'm like, oh, it's almost like skipping a meal,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
where you're just like, oh, wait a second. I need to rebalance myself here because I've missed a piece of my day.
For sure. What's the most recent investment you've made in yourself?
So the most recent investment, I had taken my executive admin to the spa. We did like a 6-hour spa date together during a pandemic with masks, but we were we were like rebels. We're like, okay, we get to eat our lunch. Can we take off our masks? And it was very beautiful. And during this, I would say, self-nourishment day, it was very interesting to see some of the thoughts that were surfacing. Okay. So in myself, I would hear like there was a bit of guilt, right? Yeah. Especially like when your treatment's supposed to be done at 3:00 and you check your phone, it's 4:30 and you're like, whoa, I've been in a vortex. Like, as much as it was like, oh my goodness, I'm feeling so nourished. There was that, oh my gosh, are the kids okay? Do they need to get picked up? Like, it was very interesting to observe my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I just had to step back into that positive self-talk, knowing that this investment in myself, this investment in, the woman who's supporting me was just like, it was so well needed. And taking a step back and coming home, I was just, it was like, I called hubby. I'm like, you're going to have to get the kids. Like, I don't even know if I can drive. Like, I'm on a whole new, like, Zen level. But I recognized the thoughts around the guilt and the shame and like, why was I feeling that way? And then I had to take it home and do some journaling around it to make sure that, I can celebrate investing in self. And, that's a message for all our listeners here too, is, removing that guilt, because you are worth it. I'm worth it. The time we spend investing in ourselves pays off 10-folds, 20-folds, 100-folds, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
So whenever you say empowerment, I think in pictures, right? That's how our mind works. So I just see like the children and myself in these like superhero poses. It's like, da, da, da. But to put words to it, I would say, really embodying your voice, really making decisions for yourself and knowing that your voice is important and really standing in that true power. So that for me, that's what empowerment means to me, is just showing up in your authentic self and knowing that you are here for a reason, and knowing that whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, if it's guided with love and it's coming from your heart, that it doesn't matter how you're showing up. You're just showing up and standing in your own true power.
Awesome. How would you describe yourself in one word?
Vibrant.
All right, that works.
I was going to say Crystal, but I'm like, no, that's my name.
Let's go. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I would say I'm both, but it's very balanced. So if I'm getting up, like right now, I'm getting up for my early practice at 5:30 in the morning. I need to make sure I'm in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. during my summit build, I was up till 1 or 2 a.m. because we had a time crunch and, going through the motions of that. But then, of course, I wasn't the early bird. I was the sloth in the morning. I recognize the sloth, right? But I recognized that the night owl wasn't good for me because then I was missing out on my early bird practice.
Right.
So I would say I prefer the early bird over the night owl, but there's times when I do have to put on my night owl cap.
All right. If you were writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
I would say From Burnt Out to Burning Desire.
Love it. That's very cool. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you and why?
I would definitely say my parents. Everything from the good, bad, and the ugly. When we were brought up, we lived in a small town, so we did a lot of outdoor stuff. We went hunting, hiking, fishing, camping, those types of things. And my parents really showed me what it was like to have, debates and arguments, but they also showed us how unconditional love works and the forgiveness. And, the root was the unconditional love. And I find that a lot of the times parents will, I'm not saying like the big, massive blowouts and fights, but a lot of the times parents will keep some of that behind closed doors and no judgment. Everybody has their own opinions on that. But for me to be able to see my parents through their challenges, but then also see them in that unconditional love state of like making amends and working through their problems and problem solving. And that was a true gift because I know a lot of the times maybe, it's sheltered and that's not seen. So I was able to then see, normal problems that happen in families and how they were solved and how love was at the base of everything. So that would be my biggest impact.
Okay. Tell me something about yourself that people would be surprised to know or find out.
All my life I've been an overachiever. That's that perfectionism thing that I'm swiping out with done is better than perfect. I purchased my first home at 19.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah, I decided at 19 I was going to go to school and I wanted to buy my first place. So that would be something awesome.
And wow. That's quite the accomplishment for sure.
Thank you.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would that one thing be?
I would say the power of your mind, sitting in silence, being still, calming your mind, and just thinking about your thoughts in silence. That's definitely the root for me.
Yeah. What is one of your favorite entrepreneurial books?
I would say there's quite a few. I'm not really a sit-down book reader. As you could tell, I got a lot of energy. I'm always moving and flowing. So I do a lot of ebooks. I would say I really like the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins. That to me, there was a time where I was in a bit of a lull. It was like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. Like how many times did I hit the snooze button and just be like, okay. So, that moving into action. And I often find myself just now naturally doing it. If I'm procrastinating or something showing up for me, I just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take action.
It's just become ingrained in you.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what would that song be?
Ain't nobody gonna break my stride. Nobody's gonna slow me down.
Right.
No. You've got to keep on moving.
Love
That's
it.
a Break My Stride by Matthew Wilder.
Awesome. What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
One thing I want but can't buy with money. I would say happiness. And then as I say that, that song, because obviously I love to play, right? Money can't buy you happiness. Like it just goes through my head, but absolutely happiness.
Okay. If you could sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with anyone in the world, alive or dead, who would that be and why?
I would say Mr. Bob Proctor. So he's the world leader in human potential. And because I study his material, I'm very inspired by his message. And, who wouldn't really want to pick his brain for a while? And I would love to speak directly with him about, thinking into results for early learning and young children, right? That's when our habits are formed.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we talk about us as adults reshaping our habits and moving through years and years of programming. And so I would say bringing it back to the early learning, and a lot of the stuff that I'm studying and I'm incorporating into the center and with the mindfulness and stuff like that, it definitely goes hand in hand. So absolutely would love a day, an hour. Look at, you're saying an hour. I'm like, I'd love a whole day with Bob Proctor.
Let's start with an hour, Crystal. Slow down. See how the hour goes.
Exactly. Oh.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
I would loop back and say, always loving yourself and investing in yourself. That would be my advice.
Okay. And lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
Ooh, I would come in and tell everybody that's listening to really get quiet, focus in on your thoughts, connect with that inside, connect with your thoughts inside, connect with what's happening inside of you, and really shifting our thoughts to more positive. Get really clear on what you want. Invest that time in yourself. Make decisions for yourself. And if you have a burning desire, write it down. Don't settle for just mediocre. Go for your dreams. Reach for those goals and desires, because you are here for a greater purpose in life.
Awesome. That's
Boom.
Beautiful. Boom. And mic drop.
Mic drop.
And out
yeah.
Crystal. Crystal, thank you so much for, again, taking the time to be part of the Empowerography community and for being here on the podcast today and sharing a bit of your journey and your story. It's been incredibly insightful. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you and so inspiring. So thank you so much for being you and just taking the time to share here today. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Brad. It's been a pleasure.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Crystal Jensen. She is the CEO and founder of Mindful Expressions Incorporated, based out of Kelowna, BC. Thanks so much, Crystal. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day.
Thanks, you too, Brad.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.